Welcome to The Point. It's always lovely to have you on this program. And today I've got a very special friend, a special guest. He's a young guy, he's only 22. He's an associate pastor. And I want to introduce you straight away to Tim Cooling. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Great to be here.
And it's really wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you.
I need to explain that Tim and I became very good friends just recently in Israel on the Revelation TV Tour of Israel, 1913 Tour of Israel, which was an 11-day trip when we became good friends. And I was so impressed with Tim, I thought we must have him on television. So we're actually going to have him here for two programs. One is to talk about his actual life and how he became an associate pastor, having been through theological college already at the age of 22, what it's like to be 6'7", how he became a Christian, and all sorts of things like that. And then in the second program, we're going to talk about his time in Israel with Revelation TV, and we've got some video clips of that as well. So, Tim, welcome.
Yes, thank you.
So, we'll start at the beginning, and I believe you were born in North Wales.
Yes, this is true. I was born in a little seaside town called Rhyl, which was a very interesting experience. I grew up there for 15 years, so that was fantastic. Rhyl's this kind of it's a seaside town.
Okay.
And basically, every summer, all of Liverpool will invade Rhyl and the surrounding regions. So it was quite a fun place to grow up. You know, lots of arcades on the seafront and this kind of thing. But at the same time, it's a really broken place, Rhyl, actually. When you're growing up, you don't really see it so much, but. As we got into our teens and things, you know, my family was even affected. There was lots of, you know, drug issues in the town and things like that. So I think it's one of the, most poverty-stricken places in North Wales, even in Britain, actually. It's a tough place to grow up.
So tell us about your family. You've got parents? Is it one brother, two brothers?
Yes, I've got two brothers, one older, one younger. One's called Dan. He's the older one.
Okay.
He's a year older than me. And then one called Andy, who's currently studying in Lancaster at university, and he's 3 years younger than me. So,
And like you're 6'7". Are they all very tall as well?
Yes, they are. My parents have bred monsters, basically. You know, we're all giants. I'm the middle, so my oldest brother is a little bit younger, a little bit smaller than me. He's I think about an inch shorter. Okay. And then my younger brother, he is he's overtaken me, and this is frightening for me. This is so scary because I went back home last Christmas, and that was the point where I realized that my little brother was now my bigger brother. And, it just shocked me, really. So
all three very tall. So are mum and dad very tall too?
Yeah, they are. My mum is quite tall for a lady. I think she's around 5'10", 5'11", something like that. And my dad's about 6'2", 6'3". Right. So I think the two of them combined has created this kind of potent mix of height that's created us, really. So
Now I believe your dad's a pastor like you, is that right?
Yeah, he is. He recently became pastor of an evangelical church in Mottram, and I think that was in January last year. So he's an incredible story, my dad, really, because he was a managing director of a company for 25 years. He'd been with this company basically his whole working life. And, I'd always sensed that there was a call of God on his life to go into this, pastoring and leading a church. And he even did a church plant while still being a managing director of this company, which, looking back now, I was only, 6, 7 at the time, but looking back now, I think, it's phenomenal that he was able to lead a church whilst also, devoting time to work or whatever. But, so he stepped out of that recently and became a senior minister at Mottram Evangelical Church, which is
now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you were both at theological college together.
Yeah, we were. So when I was 18, I just finished A-levels, and I was beginning to take God really seriously. And as part of this, I decided that if I was going to devote my life to God, if I was really going to follow Jesus with all my heart, soul, and strength, I really needed to know what it was that I was devoting my life to. So I decided after A levels, I would go to Bible college. I went to Regent's Theological College in Malvern, and at the same time, I think because maybe I had decided to go, my parents had come with me, and they'd seen the grounds and they'd seen the place and got a sense of the environment and the atmosphere, and they kind of got the bug as well, and they wanted to come and study and learn, and they didn't really have an agenda other than to just grow in God and grow in knowledge of Him and that kind of thing. And so I went to Bible college the same year they did. So they followed me into Bible college. They studied part-time, whereas I studied full-time. So we weren't in the same class. I think my first lecture, they sat in on as well. And the lecturer made a big point
Did
of...
Mum and Dad?
Yeah, Mum and Dad both
went
in the same lecture as me. And the lecturer said that this was the first time he'd ever, seen this happen in the Bible college and stuff. So it was, it was really interesting how it all worked out.
So who won the fight to become a pastor first?
Well, actually, I did. So I became an assistant pastor in Barking in June of 2011. And my dad became the senior minister in Mottram in January 2012. So I beat him by about 6 months.
Now that must be a first, I think.
Yeah, I think it might be, it kind of turns around the phrase like father, like son. It's now like son, like father. But yeah, no, it's a really, for me, it's been a really special journey to kind of go on this journey at the same time as my parents, really, and to go through the same experiences and to see my experiences mirrored in their life, and for them to see, I guess, what I'm going through at the same time. It's very unique and very special, so we can talk about things and share things together, and really walk the journey together, which has been amazing.
It's drawn you very close, I imagine.
Yeah, I've always been close with my parents. I think particularly after A levels, and once I'd matured as a person, was able to kind of talk with them more. I think they've been a real blessing to me, really. I'm really privileged to have parents that I do. They're incredible people, and my main role models for following Jesus really have been my parents. They've just been a consistent kind of source of goodness and truth and humility and all those characteristics you would associate with Jesus. I see in them, and I think they've done me so much good in my life, and I'm so thankful to God for my parents. Really, yeah.
Perhaps we could have your mum and dad on television.
I'm sure they would love to. It would be a great experience, I'm sure.
Let's start now. How did you become a Christian in the first place?
Right. Okay. Well, as you know, my parents have always been Christians as long as I've been around anyway, and. So I've always been around that kind of Christian environment, always been around church and, people who believed in God. And so from a very early age, I had a sense of, this God, this Jesus, and, I would see something different in the people that I would see in church compared to the people I would maybe hang out with in school and that kind of thing. Yeah. So at the age of 4, I think, my parents, I have no recollection of this at all, but my parents told me at the age of 4 that I first, approached them and said, I wanted to become a friend of Jesus and this kind of thing. But it was a very childlike faith. I didn't really understand, what I was giving my life to. And so if you'd ever asked me during my life, are you a Christian? I would have always said yes. Whether that was the reality or not, I'm not sure, because, we go through challenges, and particularly during my teenage years, I was very up and down in life, and in school I got in trouble and this kind of thing. So, but I think really when I started to take God seriously was when I was about 15 years old, and I think for me there was a series of events that happened that caused me to look at my life and to really evaluate the direction I was heading in and my relationship with God and this kind of thing. Because I'd always been aware that God was real. And like I said, made a confession of faith at the age of 4. So effectively what was happening in my life at the time was that I was a bit naughty in school. I got into trouble and things. So I was never a bad lad, but I liked to be a bit mischievous and, you know, just test the boundaries, I guess, is what I would do. So in school, I would always be getting thrown out of lessons. I spent more time in the halls of the schools rather than the classrooms, actually. And there was a lot of issues in my life to do with kind of arrogance and that kind of thing, actually, you know.
Find that hard to believe.
Well, thank you. But I really did struggle with it, you know. I think it was kind of a strange mix of insecurity and arrogance. I had these kind of issues all to do with my height and the way I looked and that kind of thing, as probably every teenager goes through. And to kind of protect myself from this, I found kind of overcompensated with kind of self-belief in other areas of my life. And so I had this kind of protective shell of kind of, I'm great, I'm awesome, and this kind of thing. And anyway, I remember one day my youth leader asked me I play guitar, and he asked me to go and play guitar for a church in a nearby town. And I'd never played guitar in church before. So this was like the scariest thing he could have asked me to do. I was terrified. So I remember on a Saturday night, I called this guy up, and I crafted this poor excuse, you know, I wasn't feeling well or something along those lines. And I think at that point, you know, I'd really left him in the lurch. And so he told me a few home truths about myself. And this was a guy that, for you to understand, this was a guy that I really looked up to and respected. He was kind of, at that point, my mentor, you know, someone that I you know, wanted to be like when I was older, that kind of thing. And so he told me a few home truths. He told me that I was arrogant, that I didn't think about how my actions affected other people and that kind of thing. And it was all true. It was all true. And I think at that moment, those words kind of broke me a little bit. They broke this shell of arrogance that I had as kind of a protective layer for my insecurities, I guess. And from there, I went on a journey of about maybe 2-3 years of just real brokenness before God, and really, you know, trying to discover who I was and, you know, how I fit into the world, and all these kind of questions. You know, for years I would sit in rooms and, you know, if it was a youth group meeting or whatever, and literally every word I spoke, I would ask myself, you know, is this something I would say? Is this something I would do? It was literally, I was just discovering myself for those 3 years. And yeah, it was a real journey, but through that, you know, God has brought me closer to himself. And I think, you know, that was where I really became serious about God and serious about following him and serving him, and, you know, just falling in love with him all over again and that kind of thing. So it's,
yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So on a lighter note, I think you were very keen on sport when you
Yes, yes, I was. I was a avid sportsman. So I used to play loads of different sports. I was into football, rugby, hockey, tennis, basketball. I played it all, and you know, I was just crazy into sports. So I had to choose at one point. I was doing about 3 or 4 sports at the same time, and they were all leading to kind of, you know, different opportunities, and I had to choose which one I would take seriously. So I actually chose grass hockey as my kind of main sport, which was maybe a bit silly in hindsight, considering my frame and things like that. Maybe basketball would have been better or something, but that's what I chose. So yeah, I was really into sport, really loved it.
Right. Now, I think I know the answer to the next question.
Right.
Who's been the biggest influence?
Yeah, okay. Biggest influence in my life. You know, first and foremost, you would have to say the biggest influence on all our faith is Jesus. We can't escape that. He is our role model, our example, our teacher, our guide. And, you know, my life is submitted to him, submitted to his example. But aside from him, I would say my parents have really been the biggest influence. There have been various people along my journey and my walk in faith that have, shaped me, molded me. Like my youth leader, for example, without him, I would be in a very different state than I am now. But the consistent influence in my life that has shaped me and taught me how to follow Jesus have been my parents. And I would say to all those parents out there, who are maybe struggling with children or struggling with, how do we really show our children how to follow Jesus? Never underestimate the value of just being a follower of Jesus and showing your child how to serve him in the home, how to live a life that's godly. That influence is so valuable. As someone who works with young people, I see my role as partnering with parents in the spiritual formation of a young person, because first and foremost, the faith is grown in the home, I think.
Oh, wow. Which is the biblical way, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, let's talk about your time at Bible College. Tell us about your college. I think you've got a couple of pictures to show us as
yes, well. Yeah, the Bible College, if maybe we could have those photos up, that would be great. And the Bible College is fantastic. It was a real, there we go, this is the college grounds in Malvern, Worcestershire. It's really fabulous kind of place, actually. It used to be a boarding school.
I think Regent's Theological College.
Regent's Theological College, yes. It's the Elim Bible College, and it used to be a girls' boarding school, I think, and they employ and have fitted to their purpose. But it's a fantastic place. I went there for 3 years. I did the applied theology course. There's lots of different streams they run now. So they run performing arts, they run youth work courses, they run all sorts. So it's really worth checking out if you're thinking about that kind of thing, thinking about wanting to learn more about God, or you feel a call to ministry or to perform or whatever. It's a real great place to be equipped. But my time there was fantastic. I think for me, it taught me how to read the Bible and how to engage with the issues in society, and to fuse those two thoughts together. Not that the Word of God is separate from our world, but actually it has a massive effect on the way we live our lives and on the way that we engage with the world around us. And I think Bible College was really where I began to realize that this Word of God and the world we live in can fuse together, and can, God's Word can make a difference in people's lives and things. So, yeah, it was.
That's really good, actually.
Yeah.
Any particular events or recollections of Bible College? Any friends you made there?
Well, Bible College, more than just learning about God and things. I think one of the things that really was special about Bible College is you're in a really unique environment where you share your life with people for 3 years who are of the same mind, the same heart. You don't really get an environment like that again, where you are sharing with people who are in exactly the same kind of place as you and exactly the same kind of mindset. That rarely happens. And to spend 3 years in that environment is particularly special, I think. So I made lots of really good friends, and I think that was one of the biggest things, actually, is the friendships that I made. I have friends now that I think will last with me for a lifetime, and the people that I would, consider my closest friends I probably made in Bible College. And
that's wonderful.
It's really exciting, actually, because a lot of them are going into ministry and that kind of thing as well, and we get to see how each other are doing, and it's really encouraging when I see people who, were in my class or whatever, and they're now pastoring churches or doing church plants or whatever. It's just exciting to see people moving on in the things of God, really. So
there's a couple more pictures here of your college. Perhaps you can talk us through them.
So I think if we show the next one, this is the lecture. Well, it's the main lecture theatre, but it's also the place where we would have our devotions. And I think in this image we had some local councillors, politicians come in. So we had Liberal Democrats, Conservatives, Labour Party, and I think the Green Party as well. And this was kind of a debate kind of thing. We always throw out the college are really good. They always have these unique kind of opportunities to do these sort of things. But Yeah, that's the theatre, and I think we have one other photo of the grounds in kind of snow, and so it's a really picturesque kind of grounds and stuff, and they do conferences as well. So, if you just wanted to go and check it out, and just spend a couple of days in the grounds, and just spend time with God, that's equally as special. It's a really good place, actually.
Right, moving on. I think you've now been 2 years now as the associate pastor in...
The assistant pastor. I'm the assistant pastor.
Forgive me.
Not the associate. That's fine.
Forgive me,
that's fine,
sorry,
no
assistant
problem.
assistant pastor
yeah.
at Elim Christian Centre in Barking.
Yes.
So
Yes.
tell us about that. You've got some couple of pictures as well.
Yeah, this is my church. So if we could get those images up, this is my worship team, our worship team, and they're great guys. And then the next slide as well, just to give you a sense, we're a really multicultural church, right in the centre of Barking. Actually, we're really well positioned there, and it's a great church, really gracious church, loving church, and passionate about Jesus, which is the main thing, really. And it's
Now,
great.
you're actually very young. I think you're 22, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So how
that's
how does that go down with the congregation?
Right. Well, yeah. I suppose it's really funny, actually, because whenever I tell people that I'm an assistant pastor, one of the first questions is, or the first statements is, "Oh, you're so young. Why so young?" and this kind of thing. And I'm very aware that I am a young man, and with that comes less life experience and that kind of thing. So I think my church have been really gracious with me, actually. It takes a gracious congregation to take on a young pastor. And I think as well, I have a fantastic senior pastor, a guy called John Waller. And he has invested in me so much. He looks after me, gives me opportunities to grow. And the church have just been fantastic with me. I'm still learning, I'm still growing, and they've been really gracious to allow me the space and the freedom to do that. And I can't thank either John or the church for the way that they've looked after me. And I think I'm really privileged to be in the church that I'm in. Actually, I think it's a fantastic church, and there's a real sense of life and vibrancy about it, and that's done me well. It's put me in good stead, really, for the future, really. So.
And just one more thing I wanted to ask you is, do you have any particular views about, say, the body of Christ, how it should operate?
Right, okay. So in terms of working together and this kind of thing? Or?
Well, there are different models amongst the churches. I wonder what
Okay.
you think is the biblical model.
Okay, well, I think within the body of Christ, I think there's this sense of working together, of we're all part of the body, we're all part of this beautiful bride that's going to be presented to Jesus, and so we may have different kind of theological ideas, we may have different beliefs and thoughts and things, but at the core of it is this guy called Jesus. If we love him, if we're in relationship with him, then we should be able to work together in that. And we may all have different giftings, different skill sets, but I think there's this image of the priesthood of all believers. There's this image in Hebrews of Jesus being the great high priest. In the Old Testament, we had this priestly image, but Jesus is the priest. And so now there isn't that sense of you have to come to one guru. Rather, we are all part of this body, this priesthood of believers, and so we can all serve in that, really. So,
Tim, we've just got a minute left. Have you got any particular messages for the viewers out there? Just look straight at the camera and
any
give them a message.
particular messages? Wow.
Any thoughts or?
Any thoughts? Not particularly. I think for me, at this moment in time, I think just choosing to serve Christ, serve God, and to love him. And if you've been walking with Jesus for many years, or maybe just for a few months or whatever, making that resolve to grow in him and to learn more about him and to really grow in your relationship with him. That's my desire for my life, is that I would just continue to discover more about Jesus, more about who he is, and just to fall in love with him again and again and again and again. And I think
that's powerful. That's really powerful. Well, I'll tell you one thing I did notice actually on the Israel trip is how you seem to relate to all people, all ethnic groups, all backgrounds and all ages.
Yeah.
And I was totally impressed by that, actually.
Wow, that's great.
That's good. Well, look, it's been wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We want to have you again. In fact, we are having you again
Yes.
because we're going to be talking about your trip to Israel, which was your
yes.
first time to Israel.
Yes, it was.
And we've got some
yeah.
videos to show as well.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was a great trip.
So I do hope you've enjoyed having Tim with us. We don't often have guests on the show, but I just thought Tim was such a nice guy that we must definitely have him on the show. And we've got another show just coming up with Tim talking about his trip with Revelation TV anniversary to Israel. Thank you.